Welcome to Kitchen Table Progressive. Paul Richardson here, along with Joyce and Nance, inviting you to join us for an hour of casual conversation around the table, where the menu is progressive and the table manners are decidedly liberal. On the program this week, a couple of headlines to start out with. Superseding charges in the Trump Mar-a-Lago documents case, and a third co-conspirator indicted. And also the hottest summer ever recorded, and thus, additionally, the hottest summer in human history. Actually, the planet has reached the hottest in human history. We'll take a look.
Even when it was formed, even when it got spun out.
Human history.
Human. Oh, okay. All right. So the dinosaurs might have been a little bit hotter.
They were, yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that. Speaking of the Mar-a-Lago case, we'll look at Judge Aileen Canon. Aileen Canon, I think is really how you pronounce it. It's
Aileen, A-I-L-I-N-G.
A-I-L-E-E-N is how I got it.
Oh, it's not Aileen like she's sick. Okay, all right.
So we'll see, who is she? Is she qualified? Is she up for the task of this monumentous task of this trial? We'll take a look at that and her roots in this Federalist society. Alabama is just a little bit on the muscle. I mean, we'll talk about Alabama thumbs their nose at the Supreme Court, and Tommy Tuberville holds the U.S. military hostage, all the while making demands of the federal government. This is hubris that I just well, you can only get it from Republicans, I guess. And then Joyce will do in the last segment her J6 watch. So okay, yeah, there are more indictments or more charges in the Trump documents case. They're calling them superseding charges, and I guess what that means is they simply are replacing. It's kind of like what you take this one out and we'll put these in, and it is now increasing the number of charges to 40 from, I guess it was 37, and there are 3 new charges, obstruction charges, and a new co-conspirator. So there are now 2 with Trump, 2 others. So there's Trump. Most of this is obstruction, is what he's being charged with, and then his valet, or his body man, as he's called, Walt Nauta, was charged, and then along with the new obstruction charges are the Mar-a-Lago facilities manager, apparently is what he is. His name is Carlos de Oliveira. Walt Nauta has been is a Navy petty officer and has been Trump's his valet. But actually, first he was assigned to White House Food Service. I thought that was interesting because Trump is kind of paranoid about what he eats. He's afraid somebody's going to poison him. So that's why he thinks that he can't get poisoned by eating poison. That's why he eats at he eats at McDonald's all the time. So he figures if he just eats poison, that nobody can poison him by McDonald's.
Oh, okay. Well,
cannot be poisoned.
I recommend the salad bar at Whole Foods. Then.
Well,
it almost killed me.
Yeah. Well, those covered serve yourself things are
the most dangerous.
Yes, bacteria. They are a field day for bacteria. Yeah, definitely. And the all you can eat places, those
phase. Yeah.
Oh.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Watch yourself there. But so Mr. Nauta, N-A-U-D-A, Nauta is his name. Waltine, not Walter. Waltine Toro Nauta is his name.
Well, but he's just somebody for Trump to use. He's just a useful idiot, And it's not really that important what his background or even what his name is.
No.
He
No,
is just
his
a Herschel Walker of Mar-a-Lago. Let's just
he really had should have stayed with his Navy career and his Navy retirement. He would have been a lot better off. Apparently, he had a decent career in the Navy. He served 20 years in the Navy, so I guess you get a pretty good pension for that. He reached a pretty high rank, or a decent rank of Chief Petty Officer. So I don't know ranks of the Navy, but
I don't think that's really that high. It might have been E5.
Okay, well, he would have done better than facing, as I see it, up to 90 years in prison. Because, if Trump, even whatever Trump gets off on, and I'm thinking now that these are 40 charges. There were 33 charges in the Alvin Bragg's indictment. Or 34 charges. So we're reaching 70. By the time they're done with the January 6 charges and Fonnie Willis's charges, we could be upwards of 100 counts, criminal counts. I'm just thinking if they prove 10% of them.
So, Paul, I just wanted to mention that they call this indictment a superseding indictment, which right. I'm going to guess that most people don't know what it means. And it's a document that amends and replaces the original indictment, right. listing the formal charges against a defendant. And the grand jury, this is the interesting part, typically approves the superseding indictment after additional information or evidence has been obtained. So in other words, they're still grinding through that case, what they're going to indict him on. And I'm going to guess they're not done yet.
No, I don't. I think there's
another superseding indictment.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. And I don't think Jack Smith cares about the timing, whether it's the election or not. That's
you got to put that out of your mind, because that's just smoke. That's smoke that Trump threw out there. He didn't. Right. Why did he need to declare first? So this is why.
Yeah, exactly. Because my only chance of saving myself, like I said, he figures he's got a better chance of being installed as president somehow than he does of being acquitted on any or all of these charges. And so apparently, one of the two things about the superseding charges, and I think you're right, there'll probably be more, because one thing, Jack Smith wanted to be able to use that Bettminster audio tape of him saying, "Look isn't this fascinating? Isn't great? I got all these are classified, by the way. And here's what drives me crazy, that no one has mentioned. There have been many times, I'll name 3 of them, when Trump has mentioned offhand, I'm not president anymore. He said it in that audio tape from Bettminster, where he says, I could have declassified these, but I'm not president anymore. I can't do it now.
Yeah, he talks out of both sides of his mouth. That's what criminals do. He doesn't go, oh yeah, oops, I shouldn't have said that or whatever. Right. His new charges are altering, destroying, mutilating, concealing an option, corruptly altering, destroying, mutilating, concealing a document. I mean, there's more than that.
Yeah.
Then they found it
mutilating.
Yeah.
You mutilated.
Somehow found it torn up, burnt, flushed. I don't know, but it was. I don't think they mean even like crumbled. It's more than that.
Yeah, and he said it on the CNN town hall. He said, "I'm not president anymore." He also said about the debt ceiling. Trump said, "I don't care if it." He said, "I'm not president anymore. I don't care about the economy. I'm not president." He said it multiple times, and that means to say, as a matter of fact, he could say, "Well, as a matter of fact, I'm not president." But when did he have that realization? You can't say that. He can't say, "Well, I just realized that."
Again, you're going to have to just forget about his inconsistencies or just straight up lying, because. Again, that's what criminals do.
And then there is another witness number 2. The Washington Post said yesterday, late breaking yesterday, that the witness number, employee number 2 in this superseding indictment, who seems to be cooperating, is a woman by the name of Molly Michael, who is Trump's email reader, because Trump doesn't do emails. She sends and receives all of his emails, and it appears that she may be cooperating with authorities, and that's probably why you're right that
there will
more
be
superseding charges are coming.
I know, because the thing about the word supersede, you're like, oh, it's something that happened earlier. No, it's just more stuff.
Yeah, you're right. It's an amended complaint. It just supersedes the one from before.
Yeah.
So okay, well, that we'll get more information about the hottest summer ever. This July has been the hottest summer recorded since they've been keeping records, which I think has been about, well, it's been more than 125 years, but let's just say it's been about 125 years that they've been actually keeping records. And that's astounding. Everyone has seen the heat wave, and the humidity has been astonishing. But why I say it's the hottest in human history is because, and you can find this, is scientists are saying that it's the planet is now as warm as it's been in 125,000 years. And I'm the one who's saying that's human history, because anthropologists think that the humans that we are right now, Homo sapien, are that's the human beings that we are not originated or became dominant over previous species like Homo erectus about 125,000 years ago. So we've been, the people that we are have been on the planet, the people, the kind of people that we are right now, the species that dominates the planet right now, about 125,000 years ago. And linguists believe that we've had language for about 80,000 years, spoken language and written language for about 6,000 years. So this is really the warmest period in human history. And I was trying to think about how many people were on the planet 125,000 years ago. And all I could figure out was, or I could go back 10,000 years ago. Okay, 10,000 years ago, we had 1 million to 10 million people on the planet. And so 125,000 years ago, there wasn't very many of us, but somehow we survived.
Well, those darn humans, we'll see if those rascals can come up with anything to stop their own demise while they're also thinking about new things to start. Stop it. We'll be right back.
All right, back with you on Kitchen Table Progressive here on AM 820 WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk. We talk a little bit about, speaking of the Trump Mar-a-Lago case, the judge in the case has been, her name is Aileen Canon. Aileen, but I think Aileen is Ailleen. Aileen would be Eileen.
We can just call her Judge Canon.
Yeah, Judge Canon. Okay, well, that's what that's her name. She obviously has been under some controversy or some scrutiny based on some rulings she made early in the case with regard to the documents, appointing a special master before there were any charges. It was a special master. I mean, there was a lot of evidence, or a lot of evidence, but there's no reason to appoint a special master if, number one, there weren't any charges filed and no evidence was entered. I mean, there might be, hundreds of thousands of pages of evidence. So the two reasons for appointing a special master are if there is, number one, an overwhelming amount of evidence, and number two, if the evidence is specialized to a degree that you need an expert to help sort it out for the court. But the court wouldn't appoint a special master until charges were filed and evidence was set aside. And in other words, the prosecution said, here's what we want to enter in as evidence. And then the judge would say, oh, all of that? 100,000? Okay, I need a special master. But even that, look at other cases where there are actually millions of pages of documents entered. There's not special masters assigned, but there weren't any charges filed and no evidence had been entered in, so there was no reason to appoint a special master.
Well,
and then
is it possible she was A, stalling at Trump's request, or B, felt like she was in over her head and was trying to so can I say a couple of words about
yeah, I think I like B. Go ahead with that one.
I just want to say a couple of words about Judge Cannon's background. She's pretty young. She's born in 1981 in Colombia.
Yep.
And she has a Colombian/Cuban background. She went to law school, and then when she graduated, she was a regular lawyer for only a couple of years, and then she only tried one case. Yep. And then she became an assistant U.S. attorney from 2013 to 2020. The American Bar Association rated her as qualified for the position, which is a minimum of 12 years of law practice. So in other words, she had the minimum.
Right. I mean, she barely sneaked in.
Yeah, you're not looking for in a very high profile job like that. So anyways, she was confirmed for her current job in she was nominated and confirmed for her current job in November of 2020, which I do believe that was after Trump lost.
Yeah, she took office. She took the bench on, I think it was November 14th. It was after Trump lost the election.
Yeah, right. Because he did. We're going to have to do a special episode or section on all the things that he did in November, because it's a lot. And they don't necessarily have anything to do with January 6th, but in a way, I think every single part of them have something to do with January 26th. In any case, I know you're about to get to the Federalist Society, but just to sum it up on her cases that she had while she from 2013 to 2020, she almost always, maybe always, ruled for the prosecution.
Yeah.
So she's doing a little turnaround here on this one.
Yeah. The only thing that I looked at in terms of her case rulings where I thought she showed preferential treatment was for a guy who was convicted of, and I don't bring this, I'll relate this to her judicial theory or her judicial philosophy. A guy who was convicted of threatening Nancy Pelosi, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Cook County prosecutor Kim Fox. He threatened these three public figures, public officials, and he was convicted. The sentencing guidelines call for 33 to 41 months in prison, and she cut it to 18 months and a $10,000 fine. Now, if I had my choice of which is more severe, rather to spend the minimum, like 33 months and no fine, I'd take the 18 months and $10,000 because in the $10,000 fine, because when you think about the difference, that's a 15-month difference. That's less than $1,000 a month that's like not even rent. Mm-hmm. So,
well, whoever he is can probably fundraise amongst the Republicans.
Undoubtedly, that didn't cost him a cent. That didn't cost him a cent for threatening people. Yeah, all right, dude. Yeah. Here's some money. So she cut slack when liberals were. Now, the reason I think this is kind of interesting is because Aileen Canon, yeah, graduate, did very well. She went to a private high school, graduated from a private high school in South Florida, went to Duke University in her undergraduate, which is a very, that's a very fine school, and then attended the University of Michigan Law School and graduated magna cum laude. So she graduated, did very well at University of Michigan Law School, which is one of the tops, frankly, in the world. And then took on this kind of not robust, I mean, for being a University of Michigan law grad, she didn't actually bust out of the gate, right? She kind of just went for the, I don't want to say easy job, but she didn't just go right for, I guess maybe she wanted to be a judge, but she has been always a member of the Federalist Society. The Federalist Society is basically, it's a conservative public policy group, that law-focused public policy group, has about 70,000 members and has an operating budget of about, or revenues of about $20 million a year. It's a conservative group, and she says that she was drawn to the Federalist Society because it's diversity of points of view. No, the Federalist Society does not have a diversity of points of view. The Federalist Society, all of the conservative members of the Supreme Court are or have been members of the Federalist Society, and their main thrust is what's called textualism. She says she's a textualist. This means that, and this takes a little bit of explaining, you have to remember that our Constitution or our legal system is based on the common law, which in old days, the common law, we didn't have legislatures. We didn't have laws that were written. We had courts where judges used their best judgment about justice. And so what the law became was, first of all, precedent. What you've heard, stare decisis, that means precedent. And the other one is ratio decidendi, which is the reason. And so it was based on things that were not written. And that's the way our Constitution was based, on the common law. In fact, the Seventh Amendment talked about preserving your right to jury trial in civil cases shall be preserved, and that meant under the common law. So but as legislatures became part of our, then we have text that the judges had to look at. Well, if you're going to say I'm just a textualist and I abandon the common law, that's not right. That is, you have to use the common law in interpreting the text. Otherwise, you became one of these people who is kind of like a biblical literalist. People say the literal words of the Bible, and then they say, now let me tell you what this verse means. They'll give you their interpretation of the literal meaning of the Bible. So it's kind of a smarmy way of getting around, of having it your way, having your cake and eat it too. You say, this is the text, and I'm going to tell you what it means.
Okay, so, but I just want to back up a little bit about the Federalist Society, because it has a name where it sounds like it's been around since George Washington.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't. It started in 1982 by a group of Yale law students to fight back against liberals.
Right.
So they were like, that was their the liberal left-wing ideology, and they also, it's like a big thing, networking. I don't know how else to say it. It's like a way to get jobs, and once you're indoctrinated, just like any other cult, you're probably going to stay with the people that bring you to the dance. And so once you get hooked, I mean, people do stop doing it, but then you have to swim upstream to do that. So if you're just happy to go downstream, which I think most people prefer, that's where you stay. So there's 200 chapters of it in various law schools as we speak.
Yeah, it was started, but remember too, the students from Yale, Harvard, and University of Chicago law schools, but there's also another of the originalists. The whole originalist business came from, remember what happened just the year before that, and who was also a part of this was Reagan's first nominee to replace Potter Stewart, who became the first woman on the court, Sandra Day O'Connor, was originally Robert Bork, and he claimed to be the originalist. In fact, he coined the whole term. He claims to have coined the term originalism, but Robert Bork was the one who his being knocked out of that nomination was really the genesis and the impetus for forming the Federalist Society.
Robert Bork, wasn't he the guy that they did not confirm?
They did not. He did not make it. That's right. He did not.
Well, he had to take this fall on the sword.
That's right.
But in any case, yeah, it's about the original meaning, like they somehow know.
Yeah. That's right.
We'll be right back.
Okay, Paul Richardson and Joyce Nance back with you here on Kitchen Table Progressive here on AM 820 WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk. What's bugging me? Oh, Alabama. Alabama bugs me. Alabama has got hubris unmatched. Well, I don't know if it's unmatched. I think all the red states have hubris, but when it collides or comes together into the perfect hubris storm, I think that's what's going on now with Alabama. So most people have heard that Tommy Tuberville is holding up because of his position on the Senate Armed Services Committee and the narrow majority that the Democrats hold in the Senate. He is able to hold up any promotions of military, top brass military in all branches of the armed service of the forces, so of the armed forces of the United States. The Marine Corps does not have a commandant. One retired. The last one retired. He's holding up the nomination or a new replacement of a commandant, and other top promotions of top officers throughout the armed services, because he's decided that he's the one who's going to decide what the armed forces policy should be on allowing women to travel to states to obtain reproductive care. Also, being abortions, frankly, that's what he's standing in the way of, because Tommy Tuberville thinks that he is the one who will decide military policy. I mean, when you think about it, this really doesn't matter what it's about, what policy it's about.
Well, it does matter.
As one senator,
it matters because this one is 100% anti-women.
It is anti-women. It's 100% anti-women. But for a senator to decide that he's going to be the one to dictate military policy is, frankly, I mean, that is arrogance beyond.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, Congress could do something about it, whether there's a statute or rule or whatever at this very second. They could make one. But the Republicans could say, hey, that is not right way to go about doing that. You're crippling us in our defense. They would say that if it was the other side doing it.
Right.
They could say, okay, we're going to pass this bill that says, an individual senator cannot stop this. They can be like real specific even.
Right. But as it, like usual, as it serves their needs, and by not saying that, what the Republicans are really saying is, yeah, this is right. This is the way we should do things when it comes to our agenda. But yeah, you're right. If it were a Dianne Feinstein or anybody else, or
well, let's leave Diane out of this one.
Okay. If it were any other Democratic senator, women in particular, they would be screaming wokeism. They'd be talking about wokeism and whatever. That's they apply to everything. But so frankly think that any policy, I mean, yeah, this one is anti-woman, and we've seen enough of that in the military as it is. But it is standing. It's not for him to decide if it's a policy, and the Republicans obviously in the House are not going to do that because this is their obstructive, whatever obstruction. The Republicans, their middle name is obstruction, and that's why they have Donald Trump as their leader. It's all about obstruction.
Donald O. Trump.
Yeah. Oh, Trump. But the other part that is okay, Tommy Tuberville, and as far as I can tell, he doesn't have a very interesting history. All Tommy Tuberville has ever done is play football.
He's a football coach
and coach football. And yeah. I guess in Alabama, it's true that the two most important things are football and fishing, and that's why he was elected, to be the senator. Is that he knows, apparently the literacy standards in Alabama are you only need to know 2 letters of the alphabet, X and O. So that's if you know X's and O's, then you're good enough to.
Yeah, well, he apparently was asked after he was elected senator what the 3 branches of the government was, and he did not know.
Oh, I thought he said offense, defense, and special teams.
Okay, it might have been that.
Offense, defense, special teams. So. But okay, so take that. That's the first thing about Alabama. Secondly, now people have heard that probably, but what probably people have not heard about is Alabama had a case in the Supreme Court called Allen versus Milligan, and it was about redrawing. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Redistricting, under the Voting Rights Act, which the Supreme Court upheld for this case, that black voters in Alabama were being packed into one district, whereas they had 27 blacks in Alabama represent 27% of the vote. There are 7 districts in Alabama,
and they get one.
And they get one,
even though they're a quarter of the population.
Right. When you think about 7 districts, if you divide 100% by 7, you get about 14%. So they definitely slam dunk 2 districts. I mean, 27% is almost dominant to. They might even have 3. When you think about it, they might have 3 competitive districts. So the Supreme Court, in a surprising ruling, ruled that no, Alabama has to draw 2 African-American dominant districts, or majority districts. And the Alabama legislature decided, oh yeah, and they drew 1, and then they drew another one that had like 40%. So they actually
40%. So what is the Supreme Court's teeth on this? How can they punish them?
They really don't.
They have no. This is our ruling, thus it shall be so. Oh, you don't want to do it, then all right.
The courts have no. This is the astonishing thing about this. Is my question is, oh, good. Do we all get to tell the court to go? To go shop?
Well, if that's the case, then why do we worry about people getting arrested for murder or for abortion? I don't get the difference.
Or any of the other cases, affirmative action. Why should we?
Yeah.
Why should we worry about their ruling on affirmative action or abortion or anything? I mean,
well, so they have.
Them. I mean,
they don't have any teeth. They have no teeth. They can't call the DOJ and say, "Hey, go arrest Tuberville," or whatever.
Well, the DOJ would. I don't know what the DOJ could do to state officials. I don't know.
Cities, states, have statutes. Statutes are what decides what the laws are and how they're enforced.
Well, and the other thing is in Moore versus Harper, that the Alabama Supreme Court, this right-wing court, Alabama is probably more right-wing than the United States. They told them you have to get it in line with the Supreme Court ruling and the Voting Rights Act. But the governor of Alabama said, our legislature knows the people of Alabama better than the federal courts do. They have so far refused to do it, and what they can do is a special master can be appointed to redraw the districts, and that's what will be recognized by the federal government. But look at this. This is exactly what the Voting Rights Act that the Supreme Court struck down, the Section 5, which said that this is the part that said that states that have shown a discrimination in the past have to submit their changes to their voting rights or their voting protocols to the federal government to be okayed. And the Supreme Court said that was outdated, and they struck it down. And now here we go right again. Here we go. As soon as that's gone, and by the way, Alabama was the plaintiff in the case because they lost in all the other federal courts. That's how they got to be Allen versus Milligan. Allen is the Secretary of State of Alabama. And so that's who followed the case. That's how they got to be the plaintiff, is because they lost. And they thought, oh yeah, well, we'll just take it to the Supreme Court which packed with our conservative buddies, and then they lost, and then they flipped the finger to the court. And this is Alabama. While Tommy Tuberville holds the U.S. military hostage, the state of Alabama flips off the Supreme Court and says, we don't have to do it. We're not going to do it. I mean, that's what I mean. Alabama has hubris.
I don't get why, if they can say, hey, we're not going to follow the law, why can't Biden and whoever's in Congress say, well, we're not going to wait around for this loser. Who cares what the stupid rules are about whatever? We need a head of the Marines today.
I'm not sure why.
Why can't they just tell him to stuff it?
Exactly. Dick Durbin is the chair of the Armed Services Committee, and I've heard that Dick Durbin is he needs to learn how to play play tough. I mean, he's
started boxing like a kangaroo.
Yeah, which means kicking, right?
Oh, I thought they used their short little arms.
Well, they do, but I think they box, but they also kick you right in the crotch.
Okay, so, well, one of those two things, yeah, he needs to get going on that. Or
he does. I mean, call Dick Durbin and tell him we're not going to stand for this anymore. And yeah, there's nothing that can be done. This is why, the court, the court has. And by the way, Alabama, all the time, Tommy Tuberville is demanding that the new Space Force base be located in Huntsville, Alabama, because Trump said so. No, the new Space Force base is going to be located. Air Force base training base is going to be located in Colorado Springs. So
stuff it, Trump.
Stuff it, Tommy.
Stuff it, Tuberville.
That's right, wherever that is.
Come on, Alabama, you're just a hot place to not go to. In any case, we'll be back for our last segment on January 6th.
Okay, back on Kitchen Table Progressive here on AM 820 WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and a regular segment here in the last few weeks. Joyce is going to take us through the January 6th proceedings and what led us to where we are.
Yeah, we're on the timeline. So The cleaning crew threw away my paperwork from last time, so we're just going to start on November 5th. So November 5th, 9:12 a.m. This is all Eastern time, of course. Trump tweets, probably from his special room.
Now, wait, let's remember, it wasn't Election Day November 3rd in 2020? It was.
Yes, okay. Right. The election, he had already lost.
Right, yeah.
Election Day was November 3rd. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
And so on November 5th at 9:12 a.m., he sends in, he liked to talk in code, but not this time. Stop the count. That was the tweet.
Wow. Yeah, that's subtle.
Well,
stop the count.
I mean, when he used the phrase "it will be wild," that was in code, but they had a time to figure it out. I guess at this point he needed it stopped immediately. So in any case, November 5th, same day, crowds in Detroit, with the help of QAnon, went into the Detroit's ballot counting center to do what? Stop the count.
Right. And let's just clarify that in some places, in some jurisdictions, they have the ballot counting is all in one place. They don't count them right where you cast them. So they put ballots from the various precincts into these suitcases, as they've been calling them, and they transport them by van or truck to the ballot counting center, which is in Detroit, was a central location. And so these suitcases, which are like corrupt just because they're suitcases. Look, there's suitcases full of them. Yeah, they're ballots they're secure, locked cases that they transport them, and that's where so the QAnon people went there, right?
Yeah, they went there to stop the count. And then on November 6th, Representative Biggs, that's Andy Biggs, right?
Arizona, yeah.
Who later testified basically for the January 6th committee. But on November 6th, he texted a plan to Meadows to reverse election results in favor of Trump. That doesn't sound too much about being on the other side. He did
another subtle message, huh?
Yeah. Well, he ended up getting voted out, not because he did that. That would have been, he could have used that as his campaign platform, but sure. But because he testified for January 6th commission. So on November 7th, 3 days after November 3rd, the election, AP announces Joe Biden the winner. That's another thing that drove the Trump people insane, or Trump, because they just wanted it to stay in limbo, possibly as we speak right now. Because, right, if he's president, then he's not going to go to jail, most likely. So votes were subsequently recounted in Georgia, and on November 19th, following the recount, Joe Biden is affirmed as the winner of the election because they couldn't find 11,000 votes, I guess. November 7th.
Find him somewhere. Yeah, find him somewhere.
Yeah. Oh,
find him?
Look, they fell behind the couch.
Right. Look.
There's someone.
Oh, here's some in this suitcase.
Yeah. Well, I do. To his defense, I do find a lot of stuff that I have been looking for.
In suitcases, right? Oh, yeah. When you come back from it, where the hell is that thing done? And then when you use that suitcase to go on another trip, you go, "This is where." Oh man.
Yeah.
Here, I bought another one.
The votes for Biden.
Yeah, votes for Biden.
Anyways, on November 7th, Perry, I guess it's Rick Perry, texts Mark Meadows, that we have a data-driven program that can clearly show where the fraud was committed. This is the silver bullet. There's no explaining, what that is about. So
where the fraud was committed. I love these passive voice sentences. By whom?
Well,
Yeah,
if
the
you
fraud
want
was
to
committed.
lie, if you want to like say something without saying something, you talk in the passive voice.
Right, exactly.
Even though they tell you in English class, don't do that. If you're going to become a criminal, you really should practice.
You need to learn to put. Yeah.
I mean, I'm
the money
not.
was stolen.
I know this from firsthand knowledge. I just have studied it. Anyways, November 7th, Biden is officially projected the winner of the presidential election. Didn't that happen a couple of days ago? Anyways,
November, what was it?
November 7th.
November 7th. Yeah. Okay. That's right. Yeah. 7th. Okay. So 4 days later. Right.
Yeah. And then Trump's response to that is this election is far from over.
It's far from over. Huh?
Yeah. Okay, November 8th, David Bossie, former advisor to Trump, is unable to attend an Oval Office meeting on strategy to overturn the election after testing positive for COVID-19. I'm not. So, yeah, that's the funny thing. It's not funny, but it's very odd to me that the election happens on November 3rd, but the transfer of power doesn't happen for like almost 2 months or a month and a half.
I think it's 10 weeks, isn't it? Let's see.
Is that what it is?
Well, I mean, that's November 3rd to January 3rd is 61 days and another 17. Yeah, that's 17.
Like 2.5.
That's 78 days. That's 10 weeks.
2.5 months. Yeah.
11 weeks. 11 weeks.
11 weeks. Okay,
Yeah.
about 2.5 months. Okay. So that is a lot of time to do a lot of damage. But you know, these are things that I thought that Biden and the Congress would look at when they basically held all three branches. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have still got it across, but they didn't try to clean up some of this election shenanigans stuff.
Yeah.
Like they could have said, okay, the election's November 3rd, and you at least take office on January 1st. December 1st, for that matter.
Which amendment? 23rd Amendment moves it to, I can't, the 23rd or 24th Amendment moves it to, no, I can't remember which.
The amendments switched it around, because I know it has.
It used to be in March. They voted in November, and then it was March. March.
Can you imagine if he had 2?
Oh no, it would have been no. It would have been war for another 2 months.
Yeah, well, but just the more damage. Like again, when I said the changes that he put in office after he lost in November and December are insane. and also, this is something I wonder about for the Marines, because Trump did it all the time. Whenever he wanted somebody in there, he would get rid of whoever the regular guy was. Right. And then he would appoint an acting person.
But that's what he did with the military. Yeah,
he didn't have to be vetted or voted on or whatever. He just did it. So I don't understand why Biden can't do that for this military problem.
That's true. That's a good question. Maybe Biden is. You see, the Democrats are playing as if, which they always do. They play as if it's politics, normal, and we don't do those kinds of things.
To play fairsies.
But yeah, fairsies, and when Mark Esper quit, Trump's defense Secretary of Defense, and then he appointed that Christopher Miller.
Yeah,
and that's the guy that on December 17th he wanted to. He ordered him to, or he had an executive order prepared to tell him to seize the voting machines in the swing states, in 7 swing states, and
the lawyers let him do it. Yeah,
and then Milley, it was General Milley that said no way, they won't do it. And I think that's his rub with Milley, is that Milley said no, that's never going to happen. No, the military will not do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
if you crossed him, he hates you. And
Right.
so, yeah, that's why Pence is not even qualifying for the debates.
But then, you know what? In Michigan, those new charges, there was the guy that was running for Attorney General, Matt DePerno, who's now being charged with actually taking him and a woman by the name of Stephanie Lambert and a local sheriff and somebody else. They went to precincts and confiscated. They used the sheriff's, his authority, even though he didn't have a warrant, to confiscate voting machines. And they took him to a hotel room and used their, I know, it was the guy from the Cyber Ninjas. They ran this supposed
you mean Rick Lindell?
No, not Lindell. He wasn't Cyber Ninja. It was another guy. I can't remember his name. In Arizona, when they were having all those this guy was in on, and they ran these supposed what do you call it? Some kind of forensic computer forensic to see if the votes had been changed or somehow. So they confiscated these things without any authority.
Yeah, that was an unbiased people looking at it anyway.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the guy who just got Matt DePerno got slammed in Michigan. He lost by like 13 points.
So
yeah, and then
we have only 1 minute left of our show.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting. So the January 6th. Speaking of, what do you think about the charges? Will Jack Smith bring charges with January 6th next week, do you think, or what is your opinion?
Well, I think he and the grand jury are still cogitating. Oh, you mean will he?
Not Mar-a-Lago, January 6th.
January 6th. January 6th. Well, they're also still cogitating. But yes. I would not know why he would not. I mean, he's a target of a grand jury, and once you're a target, the grand jury is a very good shot.
Right, and Fonnie Willis, remember August 1st?
Oh yeah, that's coming up. They put the barriers up around the State House.
Right, so Fonnie Willis, she said sometime between August 1st and August 18th. So,
yep, it's coming up. Right. So, anyways, I want to thank you for joining us today. And I'm pretty sure Paul does. Do you?
I do. Thank you. I do.
So come back next Sunday at 6 p.m. on WCPT 820 a.m. Check out our website at kitchentableprogressive.com. That's singular. And we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on Kitchen Table Progressive. Again, check us out on our website, kitchentableprogressive.com. You can see a video version of this podcast on our YouTube channel, Kitchen Table Progressive, and on Facebook. Join us again next Sunday evening at 6 p.m. following the family meeting for Kitchen Table Progressive. We're on AM 820 WCPT, Chicago. Let's talk.